What is up, everybody? Happy Friday and welcome to WST Winners for NFL Week 11. And of course, as we're coming at you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, home of the 112th Grey Cup, a couple of Grey Cup picks as well before the end of the show. Andrew Paterson here, soon to be joined by Jake Bolin Moss and Pat Gregoire from Coolbet. And it's Friday morning, and you know what that means. We got to get ready for a big slate of action in the NFL, get our spread picks ready, a few props, some touchdown scorers, and queue up the combo cards for the weekend over at Coolbet.com. Of course, WST Winners is presented by our friends at Coolbet. If you haven't played there before, what the heck are you waiting for? Head on over to Coolbet.com. Put in the promo code WST when you're making your first deposit and enjoy a 100% bonus up to $200 on that first deposit. And of course, you can get in on some great boosted parlays in the exclusives and in the combo cards daily and weekly with us here at Winnipeg Sports Talk. Let's get to it and welcome in Winnipeg already, Jake Bolin Moss, and soon to be in the peg a little later on today, Pat Gregoire. Fellas, what's going on? Jake, great to see you last night. I wish the Jets could have provided us a win and maybe a little bit more of a festive end to the game, but great to see you, Ange and Finn, and waiting for Patty to show up a little later on today.
Yeah, happy to be here. I got the new background for the day, nice clean white background at the Airbnb here in Winnipeg. So, yeah, I'm excited to make some picks. I'm excited to be here for Grey Cup. It's my first Grey Cup. I've heard only great things from Patty and Ange. So, yeah, happy to be part of the experience this year and looking forward to making some good memories and some good content in the process.
Patty, the city is rocking, ready to go. We had a big event last night at the convention center. The Watchmen were playing, and it's just going to get even more crazy as you get here later on today. What's going on?
I'm jealous. The FOMO is absolutely real right now. I think I can hear Ange chatting in the background. Jake, tell him to keep his picks to himself. All right. But yeah, no, Jake, I think you lead the league in different backgrounds when it comes to this program. We've had the cottage background. We've had your actual house. Now we've got an Airbnb. I love it. But I wouldn't want to change too much. I think you've been probably the most consistent bettor on this program. It's very fitting that my lacrosse number was 22 because that's all I do is 2-2 every single week. I'm gonna fight, claw, scratch for a 3-1 or a 4-1 week one of these days. Why not this week?
Well, I was 3-1 last week, and I'm still pissed off at the Steelers, preventing a bunch of combos coming through. A 4-0 week was not bad, though. And as I say, we're all 500 or better last week. But, man, guys, we have an incredible slate of games. And obviously, we'll make our picks based on the games that we like the most. But just a few of the highlight games on the weekend. Noon slate, or 1 o'clock Eastern, we've got Patty's Bills taking on the Buccaneers. Been some pretty fun banter back and forth between Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen so far. And the late slate is as good as it gets this season. 3:05. Some people are calling this the game of the year. Rams and Seahawks 7-2, 7-2. And then a massive AFC West battle with the Chiefs in Denver to take on the Broncos, followed by the Sunday nighter Detroit in Philly. So we have some big-time games today, but of course, every game has a line at Coolbet, and we'll pick the ones that we like the most. We're going to start off with our spread picks. And Patty, why don't you fire it up today and lead off? We'll change up the order today, and maybe that can help you get off to a great start. We got a clean slate. Give us your first two spread picks today on WST Winners, Mr. Gregoire.
Yeah, I'm going to start things off. It might be my favorite bet of the week, but it also might be a little bit of a revenge spot for me. You mentioned the Steelers. I was on them as well. I've been calling them frauds. I've been calling out how bad their defenses have been. And then I fell right into the trap just because I was on the wrong side of them the week before. Well, I don't care. I'm not suspending them. I'm going to go head-to-head with the Bengals inside the division. We always know these games in this division, in the AFC North, doesn't matter if you're at the top of the division or the bottom of the division. These games are always close. I could see this coming down to a field goal. Do I think the Steelers are probably going to win? I do, but 5.5 seems a little bit much, especially when you considered, and Jake and I in the green room before this game started, automatic autoplay for this game is the over. I think there is going to be a ton of points scored in this one. I talked about it. This Steelers defense stinks. Do you know who else stinks? Is the Bengals defense. But do you know who doesn't stink and is probably the best unit in this game? Is the Bengals offense. I think they can pour it on offensively against this Steelers team. I think it doesn't matter how bad their defense is. This Bengals offense can keep up. They have looked pretty competent since going out and getting Joe Flacco. They're finally getting their big-time players involved in this offense. So 5.5 in this division seems too much. And yes, this could be me rage betting right now. Remember, stay cool, bet responsibly, but I'm going to responsibly back the Bengals here. Pick number 2, I'm going inside the division again, and we see a lot of divisional games this week. There's a lot of big-time games. I think this is a huge game for both sides, but I'm going to rock with the Vikings minus 2.5. The Bears, for me, I get it. It's a great story. Caleb Williams is starting to look a little bit better. What this group has been able to do this year is great. So many comeback victories, so many gutsy performances. Ben Johnson really has these guys believing, and the culture feels changed. With that being said, guys, I feel like they've just been flying too close to the sun. Last week, another big comeback victory. The defense, though, is certainly concerning for me. And on the flip side, I think that the Vikings, with J.J. McCarthy coming back, look a little bit better. They're starting to play really, really strong. I've got another play in this game, which I'll get to. But I trust Brian Flores' defense going up against Caleb Williams and this offense. So I'll go Vikings minus 2.5.
You know, that Cincy pick's interesting. If you recall, Cincy beat Pittsburgh, and that kind of opened up the door for Baltimore to get right back into the division. And of course, they haven't looked back since then. Pittsburgh's been up and down. And it sort of seems like Baltimore will run away with this division by the end of it. And something tells you we're going to get a little more action on this Minnesota-Chicago game before we are done. So Pat's out of the gate with Cincy plus 5.5 and the Vikings minus 2.5. Jake, where are you starting the card for the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, just touching on Patty's picks, I love the over in both of those games. I love a lot of overs this week. I know we don't take totals here as for our picks, but there are a lot of totals I like both those games to go over.
Maybe great. A special over combo.
Yes,
yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I think there's games. That Patty likes. We can see what you like, Huss, but I think we can get 3 games on an over this week. It'd be a lot of fun. Listen, I told you last night when I saw you, I'm getting stinky this week, and I'm starting it right on Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m. Winnipeg time, and I'm taking the Washington Commanders plus 2.5. Now, why in the world would anyone want to bet on the Washington Commanders in their current state? This is a big time zig while everyone zags. All these public bettors coming in early here on Miami, 2.5. That's a crazy spread. Washington's lost 4 games by 20 plus, 4 consecutive games by 20 plus. Miami's all fat and happy. They just beat Buffalo. You know, they think they're world beaters. This is a perfect spot for Washington to cover and possibly win over in Madrid. These games get weird. You know, listen, Miami all of a sudden isn't a good football team. Don't get fooled by the fact that they won a divisional game. Like, listen, these things happen all the time within the division. They're tough games. Like, there's no need to discredit the Buffalo Bills, and there's no need to crown the Miami Dolphins. Washington, obviously, it's been rough on the defensive side of the ball, but I trust in Marcus Mariota. You know, I trust that they can get something going because, you know, as much as it feels like this is going to be a lost season for the Commanders, I still feel like they're going to be playing some tough football. I know it's been rough recently, but listen who they played: Detroit, Seattle, Kansas City, and then Dallas before that. You know, they've been struggling against some really good football teams, and you know, I think this week, I think this week is a great spot to get on the Commanders. I think they can win this game outright. The next one I'm going to, Patty already touched on the AFC North, and I'm actually going to the other matchup in the AFC North. I'm a little nervous about it, but you're going to give me 7.5 points with a home divisional dog in the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I'm gonna take it. It's stinky. It's plug your nose. I know Baltimore needs wins, but I think Baltimore can absolutely win this game, but I think Cleveland can absolutely cover this game. The Browns 3-0 against the spread at home this season, 0-5 against the spread on the road. So they played better at home. You know, the defense has been the better unit for the Cleveland Browns. You know, and obviously the Ravens are in must-win territory. I totally understand that. They're not in must-cover territory. So I'm going to roll with the Browns in a divisional home matchup as a 7.5-point underdog.
Well, you certainly weren't exaggerating when you said you were going to start with a couple stinkers. Washington,
I told you, man.
Plus 2.5, and Cleveland plus 7.5 to get things going. Tough act to follow. Listen, I'm going to start off with my favorite play of the entire weekend, and it's from the Sunday Nighter. I'm taking Detroit plus 2.5 in Philly. Straight up, I like the Lions to win this game on the money line. Listen, the Eagles, that game between the Eagles and Packers, I mean, the two 10-7 primetime games that bookended last week. I mean, listen, that Broncos-Raider game was one of the worst games that'll be played in the entire National Football League all year. Little bit of a different game, and I think, you know, more intrigue, some crazy coaching decisions. Nick Sirianni, what the hell are you doing at the end of that football game? But here's the thing. All is not right with the Philadelphia Eagles offense. They are not running the football anywhere close to what they did last year. And to be honest, if their defense wasn't holding them in these games, I mean, they'd probably be losing by margin, because with the exception of a couple of games so far, notably the second half against the Rams early on, the Philly offense has been pretty much stuck in neutral this year. I think Detroit is on the verge of really taking that next push. Now, I don't know what the heck's going on. They're averaging over 30 points a game, and the OC is out from calling plays. Dan Campbell's taken over. But listen, this Detroit offense is just a real handful. I think that they're going to be able to score, and I don't think that Philly right now is operating at a clip that's going to be able to keep up with the Detroit Lions. So I know the game's at the link. I know it's a primetime game. I still love Detroit to go in, make a big statement right now. And I know we're going to be talking about the Rams and the Seahawks right now. I really do think that Detroit is very live in the NFC right now, and certainly in the NFC North. So give me the Lions to kick things off. And I guess considering I'm staying in I'll just stay right there in the NFC North. And Patty, I'll echo your pick for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm on the Vikes at minus 2.5. I mean, to me, this should be 3 or 3.5. I think people are maybe a little fooled by maybe the Bears record. And I still can't believe it is what it is. But man, you look at the Houdini act that they've had in some of these games, a 1-point win over the Raiders, the comeback against the Giants. I mean, they're going to be in really, really tight games with some really, really bad teams. As much as Minnesota's had some real ups and downs, and I know there's still growing pains with J.J. McCarthy, with the Vikings at home in the Dome, I think that their defense will be able to step up in a much better way that the Bears will be able to. And I think they'll be able to put some pressure on Caleb Williams, who is not really turning the football over, but he also is the least aggressive quarterback in the NFL. I think they're going to need to maybe juice that up a little bit if they're going to want to hang with Minnesota. This has got to be a big game for the Vikings on the ground, and I certainly think that we'll see Justin Jefferson get back at it. 4 catches last week on 12 targets. A lot of that comes down to the quarterback position. This is a massive game for Minnesota if they want to stick around in the division and certainly in the wild card race. I like them to come up big at minus 2.5 against the Chicago Bears. So Lions plus 2.5 and the Minnesota Vikings minus 2.5 to start off my card. Patty, back to you for picks 3 and 4 against the spread.
Haas, you were on one of my picks with the Vikings. I'm on one of your picks with the Lions. I think maybe because it's at the link, that's why the Eagles are favorites. I thought it would be closer to maybe more of a coin flip game. I think the Lions are the better team. I think they're playing better. Maybe on paper, the Eagles are better, but just the play calling that this Eagles team has played with is absolutely disgusting and not in the good way. Speaking of play calling as well, fellas, since Dan Campbell's taken over play calling last week, that offense looked even better. I think they're a team on a mission. I think they're not pleased with how inconsistent they were to start the year, but I feel like this is now when we start to see the Lions really cook here. So I'm with you. I'm playing it by the spread. I probably am going to put them in a money line parlay at some point as well, because I definitely see them upsetting the Eagles. Like, the Eagles tried to give away that game last week against the Packers. So for me, I'm with the Lions here. And Hasi, you like that pick. You're probably going to like this pick as well. The Chiefs, -3.5 against the Broncos. I know they're on the road, but you're giving me the Kansas City Chiefs coming off not only a bye, but the last time we saw them out, they got the brakes beaten off them by the Buffalo Bills. This group is going to be so motivated to beat a team, mind you, in the division, but also a team that set football back for how many years with that last Thursday night game that we saw with them. They are going to come out here absolutely rolling. And Andy Reid off the bye is just been free money for the last, 2 decades almost. He has the highest winning percentage, 0.840. That's a 21-4 record following the bye week of a minimum of 10 games, mind you, as well. And then he is 8-3 following the bye during his reign with the Kansas City Chiefs. So put those two facts together and then sprinkle in the fact that the Broncos are the most fraudulent team in the NFL. I think they get exposed and really open anyone else's mind who thinks that this Broncos team is an actual contender.
Love the picks, Patty. Love the picks. I was going to stay away from that game, but I love all of your reasoning, and I'm definitely with you on the Chiefs. So Detroit +2.5. Pat and I both have that, and now we've added the Chiefs -3.5 to the card. Jake, I don't know how you follow up the Browns and Commanders, but do your best.
Well, I'll tell you right now, you guys will be happy to know that the Lions aren't on my card, but I do love that pick. I think that immediately goes to the top of the board for our parlay. And this one, it's tough. Patty sits there and pounds the table. I had a feeling someone was going to be on it following the bye. I do have the Denver Broncos on my card, +3.5. Chiefs are a heavy public side right now. I think a lot of people share your sentiments, Patty, when it comes to, Andy Reid off the bye, and I totally get it. I think, the Chiefs, you more than likely win this football game, but a divisional home dog once again, at a football number of 3.5. I couldn't shy away. I sat here on this program last week and pounded the table for how much frauds that the Denver Broncos were. The one thing about the Denver Broncos is that defense is still really legit. I think they can play an ugly game like they've done all season. They've been the comeback kids. I don't necessarily think they win this one, but I think a tight field goal, finish makes a lot of sense to me. I hate myself for fading Andy Reid off the bye, but there's so much public love for the Chiefs right now. I couldn't look away from it. So I'm going to take the Broncos at +3.5. One of us is going to win this week, Patty. That's what's most important, I suppose. And we'll let the chat decide, which way they want to go there. You will be happy about this though, Patty, even though I did fade you on that one. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills -5.5. This is the fishiest line of the week. What do you mean the Buffalo Bills are 5.5-point favorites to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after losing to the Miami Dolphins last week? Tampa coming off a loss. They want to get back on track. Like, this line makes no sense to me. We talked about it a few days ago, Patty. I can't process the fact that the Bills are this big of a favorite. I know they're at home. And then, maybe it's one of those things where it's a warm weather team coming up to a colder climate. I'm sure it's going to be chilly in Buffalo on Sunday. Everything kind of points me towards, why don't you take Tampa? You take the points with Tampa. But that 5.5, that no man's land number, I've swung completely the other way. I know this is already jumping, to 6.5 at other places. So, I'm going to grab it at 5.5 while I still have the opportunity. I think it's one of those spots where it's like, I hope for your sake, Patty, it can't get much lower for the Buffalo Bills than it did after last week's loss to Miami. But I think a lot of it had to do with the week prior where they beat the Chiefs. And, that's a big emotional win for the team at home. They go to Miami. It's a sleepy one. Obviously, we see what happens there. I think this is a great spot to get back home to Buffalo and pick up a big win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to, stay on par with my New England Patriots, who picked up another win last night. So I'm going to take the Bills -5.5 as my final pick to close it out. I'm sure it's not on Huss's card if I had to guess. So we're probably not going to see that one in a parlay, but I'll ride with your boys, Patty, because I know you won't do it.
I'll be honest, it's not on my card, but I do love the pick. I think this is one of those spots that, a tough spot for Tampa to go in. And listen, I think we do expect Buffalo to be a much better team. I mean, listen, they stunk last week. And, I joked to all my friends, well, they spent all week celebrating their Super Bowl victory the week before. Listen, credit where credit is due. They played great against the Chiefs. They just weren't up to the challenge in South Florida. Shout out Mike McDaniel, by the way, cruising by the elbow room after the game. That's I don't know if he's going to last.
That guy is such a loser, man. I can't stand Mike McDaniel. He's such a loser.
What?
I will say this about Mike McDaniel. This week, was it you, Jake, picked the Commanders Dolphins? With the Dolphins, also Dan Quinn and Mike McDaniel, super close. Dan Quinn actually, on a more serious note, helped McDaniel become sober. So if there is a chance for the Dolphins to really light things up and blow the Commanders out, I don't see it happening. So we know the football community, especially with the coaches, they look out for each other. So I think McDaniel might win with some class if that's the case. But I'm also with you. I think the Commanders probably win this game because, like Huss said, the Super Bowl for the Bills was against the Chiefs. Well, the Super Bowl for the Dolphins was finally beating Josh Allen for the first time in how many years?
Yeah.
It's a great point. It's a great point.
Mike McDaniel was sober. I mean, he looks like the biggest stoner coach in the history of the National Football
Well, he might be. I think he's sober from alcohol. I don't think he's sober.
California sober. That's what they call that.
Yeah. Correct.
All right. So Denver +3.5 and Buffalo -5.5 for Jake's other two picks. All right. I'm actually on the other side of one of your picks, Jake. I'm going with the Ravens -7.5. And listen, I understand that this is a big divisional game, and Cleveland has shown a knack for being able to hang in. They just lost to the Jets last week, guys. And I think we're now seeing the Ravens get healthy and get it into gear. And listen, they can't afford to take the foot off the gas at all, considering their 1-5 start to the season. I think we're seeing a more focused Baltimore Ravens team. I think we're seeing a defense that stepped up in a big way. And let's face it, I mean, I don't know how you can put much stock in anything Cleveland is doing offensively. And when it comes down to it, I mean, with Lamar back in and Derrick Henry, and listen, I just don't know how Cleveland keeps the Ravens off the board and keeps this game close enough. Normally, this is not an area that I would go to laying the points on the road in the division. But I think that, with the way where the Ravens are right now, there's such a big gap between these teams. I will swallow it and drop the 7.5 for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the other game that I'm going to go with in the picks, and listen, we do need to just talk about the Rams Seattle game because I mean it's such a big game.
That's going to be so much fun.
But
it was hard to pick.
There's like that's probably the best divisional game of the weekend. I'm going to one of the worst divisional games of the weekend. And I'm going to lay the 6 points with the Houston Texans against the Tennessee Titans. Now, shout out to the Mills Mafia. Mills came up so big for me last week and really kind of flipped the entire week. I'm staring at a 17-point deficit against the Jags in the early slate going, oh my God, this is just a terrible pick to start it off. And then they started cooking. And, that stirring fourth quarter comeback was something that, the Texans needed to just keep any hope alive in their season. They come in with a little momentum going into Tennessee. Now, listen, I know Tennessee's coming off the bye. Guys, they just don't have the horses right now, and they've already fired their coach. Mike McCoy, I don't think, is going to be doing any big-time turnarounds right now. And Tennessee's staring at second consecutive number 1 overall pick dead in the face. The Houston defense is the best unit in this football game. I think they exert themselves, and I do think that whether Stroud comes back, I don't think he will be, or Davis Mills, I have a lot of confidence that the Texans will be able to flex on Tennessee and win by a touchdown. This was 7 earlier. It's now 6. So I think now's a good time if you like Houston to get in on it. Houston -6 is the other play. Baltimore -7.5, the other. So guys, we've got some interesting options here for a little partner parlay. Patty, you and I are both on Detroit and Minnesota, and I kind of like those numbers, the 2.5 on both sides. Mm-hmm. Jake, I mean, Washington, Cleveland, obviously Cleveland and Baltimore were both on, so maybe we
I think we keep that off. I think it's either Washington or Buffalo.
I think
right, because Patty and I are opposite on the Broncos side. And what do you like us? Sorry.
I put it this way. I like the Bills a lot more than the Commanders. I mean, just in general. Yeah. I don't necessarily think that the Commanders is a bad pick, but I as I mentioned before, Pat, and I know you're a little hesitant because they are your team. This has got to be a big time statement for the Bills. I mean, the Patriots just won. They're catching up, and I think that they'll be ready to go in a big way coming back from a pretty embarrassing day last week against the Dolphins.
Well, here's the other thing as well, fellas. I talked about it last week. Like, do we really want, before we've even moseyed on our way over to Princess Auto Stadium, maybe even before we've had breakfast, that our parlay's dead? Like this, I hate that. I love that you add the Sunday morning game with these European games because you wake up and football's on. But for me, I don't want the parlay to be dead before, like, it's, if they don't cover, we got nothing to look for the rest of the day. So I will say, let's go Bills. Put Bills here. They're also wearing their throwback jerseys. I don't know if that adds any more to the lore, but I'll ride with the Bills.
I love that a lot.
This is a must win, and not just a must win for the Bills. I think it's like, they got to flex their muscles here offensively, most especially.
Okay, listen, before we move on and we'll get into props, we've got Minnesota -2.5, Detroit +2.5, Buffalo -5.5. That's going to be the partner parlay. I think that we should consider the 3 overs. Let's do let's basically pick some overs right now. What was the first one? Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Jake, that you were talking about?
Yeah, I love that one. Love that one. The other one was the other game you talked about, Patty. The Bears. I do like Bears Vikings. I know the Vikes D's been solid, but I think if the Bears want to stay in the football game, they're going to need to score points, because I think the Bears defense has been Swiss cheese. Like, that has been their worst unit by far. I know they've been finding ways to win, but that's another one. Patty, I mean, we didn't talk about this game, Huss, but I know Patty likes it. Jameis playing in the Giants game, Packers-Vikings over. It excites me a lot. Jameis is an over quarterback. And I mean, to get a number at 42.5, like, I think it's rare you get a low 40s for a Jameis football game, whether he's throwing touchdowns or whether he's throwing
That's the thing. Sixes. It's pick sixes. Like, you have the opportunity to possibly get 6 on the board with a long bomb touchdown to Wan'Dale Robinson, but you also could see something where it looks like you're watching a slapstick comedy from the 40s and ends up being a fumble 6 or a pick 6. So I'm in for that. I think if we buy down the point from the Bengals Steelers game to get it to 48.5, you put all those together right now before the boost, it's 576. But Huss, I don't know if there's another total that you like. Maybe we can swap out one of them.
No, to be honest with you, I mean, I love the first 2, and I think the logic behind the Giants Packer game is good. Packers offense needs to get going. I mean, they've been stuck in for the last 2 weeks. And this is a perfect spot to do exactly that.
I was going to say, Huss, the unit they're going up against is a great unit to get back on track. Like, the Giants defense, as good as that defensive line is, you look at the stats, it's not very pretty when it comes to I've been diving into the EPA numbers, but the EPA numbers for both pass and rush haven't looked great. So I think it's a great opportunity for the Packers to get going and a great opportunity to get a little Jameis magic. Oh, I love that. I love that total, man. I might like it too much, but I guess we'll have to find out.
So, yeah, and I mean, you know what? Obviously the Packer-Giant game's 43, the Bengals-Steelers game's 49, but the half point doesn't really change it that much. Minus 114 for the 42.5 and the 48.5. So, yeah, as you said, Patty, what I just put it in, I think we're at plus 576 for those games at 42.5 for the Packers and Giants and 48.5 for the Chicago, Minnesota, and the Cincinnati, Pittsburgh game. So we'll lock those in and get that one up. So we're doubling up partner parlays, going with a little overfest as well as their games. Listen, before we move on to props, need your thoughts on the game of the week. We have not made any bets, and I kind of understand it. To me, this is a really, really tough one to call. Seattle +3 at the Rams. Pat, where do you stand on this one, other than knowing that this should be one of the games of the year?
I think the bookmakers completely nailed this. I think it comes down to a field goal. I think I lean Rams just a bit because they are at home. Mind you, there's probably going to be a lot of Seahawks fans traveling down to watch that game. I think this is one, fellas, where you don't pick a side. You sit. Well, we won't be sitting down watching this. We'll probably be at a bar or a tailgate somewhere, getting ready for the big game. But where you just don't pick a side. Pick a bunch of props, because I think the prop opportunity for this game is so big just with how dynamic both offenses are. But I mean, it's really tough to go against the Rams the way that Stafford's been playing. But I think when you look at the efficiency numbers, man, Sammy Darts has been unbelievable as well. So I lean Rams, but I probably don't pick a side, and I just bury some props here.
Jake, give us your thoughts on the spread. But I'm also interested to know if this was a neutral game, a neutral site game, and the Rams weren't at home. I mean, just right now, based on where these teams are, who do you like more, like between the Rams and Seattle? I think people are maybe still a little slow to pick up on just how good the Seahawks team has been. And at the same time, I think you can make an argument that the Rams have been the best team in the NFC this year.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I was early on the Seahawks wagon. It didn't work out for me. I think I had them in week 1, and they didn't end up covering against San Fran. But yeah, listen, they've been really, really solid. And, Darnold has really settled in as a nice piece there. JSN's having a monster season. Cooper Kupp had a big catch last week. They go out and get Rashid Shaheed. They got weapons on the offense, not to mention the defense is actually probably their better unit in Seattle. The one thing about the Rams is, as great as their offensive pieces are, another underrated defense, that is built through the draft and, a lot of young pieces. Listen, it's a hard game to pick. I think I lean experience. Patty kind of talked about the Rams being at home. I kind of lean with Stafford and the experience there, the Rams and McVay. We saw what happened when Darnold had to play in a big game last year. Unfortunately, that bit him in the butt a bit with the Vikings. So, I mean, if I had to pick the game, I'd probably go Rams as well. But I don't think it's any disrespect to the Seahawks. I think it's just you look at the game as a whole and it's like, oh, it could truly go either way. It's a perfect line. I didn't even think about betting it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, to me, it's.
Sorry, go ahead, Huss.
I was just the exact same way. I mean, you look at all the other games, you sort of have a lean, and it's a game you definitely want to see, but it is a really, really tough game, I think, to handicap and play on either side at 3.
You guys mentioned, or I think it was you, Jake, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp anytime touchdown plus 380. I feel like that's got to be a play now. Going up against his former team. A little Cooper Kupp revenge game.
Cooper Kupp revenge spot. Oh my God. I didn't even think about that. What was I thinking? Of course he's going to score.
Well, as I say, that's a big, big number. I mean, he's been kind of an afterthought right now. But I'll tell you what, the addition of Rashid Shaheed with the week of practice, I think is going to help Cooper Kupp. I mean, they already have arguably the number 1 receiver this year in the league, JSN. You have to respect the ability for Shaheed to just rip the top right off the defense And I think we might see a little bit of a bounce back from Cooper Kupp. So we'll get into touchdown scorers in a minute and see if we want to jump on that. Let's dive into some props, boys. Let's get our favorite couple each, and then we can put something together for that as well. Patty, your favorite 2 prop bets player-wise for the weekend?
This was tough. Like, I really struggled to pick 2 here, not because I couldn't find 2. It's because I just loved so many props this week. And I don't know, maybe it's because it's the only thing I'm finding, consistent success. Last week, I think that quarterback prop with Hurts, 26.5, he finished right with 26. And the only reason it did cash is because he had a couple of kneel outs to end the game. So feel a little bit frisky here. I will have Greggy's QB rush prop of the week at my second pick. But for my first pick, the one that I needed on my card, I absolutely love it. I don't know why the odds makers haven't adjusted the line for Christian McCaffrey, but his receptions are a perfect 10-0 to the over this year. Right now it's sitting at 50.5. He's gone over 50.5 in 9 of 10 games this year. In the last 60 yards in 3 of the last 4 weeks. So for me, I think this continues. I know water's got to find its level. But what CMC has been able to do this year, I've talked about it a lot. I've been on a lot of his rushing and receiving yards, or maybe just his rushing yards. I'm going to go back to the well here because they have really, really found a sweet spot with his reception yards here, getting involved in the offense. So give me over 50.5. The quarterback rushing prop of the week presented by Pat Gregoire, over 21.5. for Caleb Williams. I know I'm on the opposite side of this game, but Williams has really started to use his legs a lot over the last couple of weeks. He smashed this number in 3 straight games, had 58 against Minnesota already this season as well. I think Brian Flores, as he always does, is going to send the house. He is going to, not only just, the front, like one thing that he does really well is, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word that I'm trying to say here, but he does a really good job for quarterbacks not to expect
heating them up.
He does heat it up. No.
I hear you.
I can't think of the word. Anyways, he does a really good job deflecting, like for quarterbacks. Disguising. There it is. Disguising.
Gotcha.
Disguising.
We had to get there.
Disguising rush. You had to get there. Disguising those blitz. But the one thing for me is that with this number at 21.5, like, yes, he could probably get that with like one big run and then another. But one thing that they have done is that he's picked up a lot of chunk yardage as well. 10 yards here, 8 yards here, another 8 yards, and now a 5 yard here. So it's been a little bit of scrambling. It's also been a little bit of design runs as well. So 21.5 seems low for what we've seen from Williams, especially when you figure out that Brian Flores will be disguising a lot of blitzes and he's going to have to be running for his life. Tough, fellas.
I love those plays, especially the Caleb Williams. And, I was listening to the latest Rosillo podcast, and he had Greg Olsen, and my God, Greg Olsen is so good at breaking things down. Highly recommend the listen. They were talking about Caleb Williams, and he has I was mentioning the lowest number of any quarterback on aggressive throws. This is a guy they were making the comparison between Caleb Williams and Jared Goff, and Goff, won't necessarily have the separation, but he knows where he's throwing it and he'll rip it aggressively. Caleb's the exact opposite, but what that means is his natural inclination is to juke a guy out, create some more time, and either throw the ball or run. And listen, you just mentioned it. I mean, I think the Flores defense is going to be bringing it. They will challenge Caleb Williams to do that. And I think his inclination is to eat it, run. It might be 8 or 9 carries for 25 yards, but I do think he gets there. So a nice start for the prop. CMC over 50.5 reception yards. and 21.5 over on the ground for Caleb Williams. Jake, what are you cooking?
Yeah, listen, boys, we might have some extra parlays in this week because I also have a bet from the Vikings game. I'm wondering if we're gonna do my bet, Patty's bet, and then maybe a Vikings money line just separate from the spreads parlay. It's just a thought that's going through my mind. I'll start with that one. It's my favorite prop of the week, and Patty's the quarterback rush guy. He's always got a quarterback rushing prop, and he does very well on them. I like the long reception bets. I place a lot of long reception bets. I love to dive into, guys who can pick up big chunks, who have been picking up big chunks this season. And I'm taking Jordan Addison over 21.5 of his long reception. It's minus 119 right now. And we got to start off with the fact that the Bears defense has been Swiss cheese. They couldn't stop a nosebleed this season. And all they've done is give up big chunk receptions. Listen to this. So this is players. How many players have gotten 22 plus yard receptions versus Chicago this season? Giants last week, 3. Cincy had 6. Baltimore had 2 with Tyler Huntley at the helm. New Orleans had 2. Washington, 3. Vegas had 0. Dallas had 2. No CeeDee Lamb in that game. Detroit had 3. And then Minnesota had 2 in the week 1 game. No Addison. So you couple that with the fact that Addison has cleared this number in his last 2 starts with McCarthy, including 11 targets last week. He's done this in 3 of his last 4. And I think it's just going to be a heavy dose of downfield throws to McCarthy. Bears give up a ton of chunk yardage. It's why I love the over in this game, and that's why I also love the long reception for Jordan Addison. So over 21.5 there. And then the other prop I'm going to is a running back rush prop. Listen, Tennessee has been a feasting ground for running backs this season. And, Huss, you already spoke about this game. Houston, it is absolutely the better unit. Tennessee just doesn't have it this year, and that's fine. It is what it is. They probably want that number 1 pick. I'm taking Woody Marks over 60.5 rushing yards. I mentioned the Tennessee rush defense. They're 27th ranked in terms of yards allowed this season. And here's some notable performances against Tennessee. Jonathan Taylor, 2 games, 153 and 102. Ramondre Stevenson went for 88. Genty, 75. DeMercado, 81. Marks has already played them once. He went for 69. Kyron Williams, 66. And then against Denver, they allowed 2 running backs over that number. Harvey went for 70 and Dobbins went for 63. So, you've seen Mark's usage actually tick up here in the last few weeks. He's gone 4 straight weeks with double-digit rushing attempts. And then including that game against Tennessee, it's 17 rushing attempts for 69 yards and a touchdown. So I'm going to take Marks over the rushing number at 60.5 to round out my props for the week.
Love it. Marks over 60.5 and the long reception for Addison over 21.5. Guys, I'm going to 2 receiving props. I'm going to start off with your Bills, Patty, and give me Khalil Shakir over 49.5 yards. Shakir, this is going to surprise some people. And this is part of the reason why, to be honest, I'm not as high on Buffalo as maybe we were at the start of the year, is the receiving core. Shakir is the safety blanket for Josh Allen, but you don't want that safety blanket to be the number 1 receiver on your team. And that's where the Bills are right now. I mean, Dalton Kincaid certainly is a big part of that passing game. Keon Coleman every now and then shows up and makes a big play, but not consistently at all. And in a game where, let's face it, we do like Buffalo in this one, but I do think that Tampa is good enough that the Bills are going to need to move the football. They're going to need to score some points. This isn't going to be a slow game of field position and ball control. And I think that's going to mean Josh Allen, it goes early and often to Khalil Shakir. I'm just pulling up his stat line as far as his game log. Again, he's got 457 yards. The one thing that his average isn't a lot, but it's 10.2 over the course of the season. And, you look at his games in the last few games, 9 targets, 7 catches, 8 targets, 7 catches, 7 targets, 6 catches. Very, very consistent. And in a game where I think that Josh Allen is going to be challenged to throw the football, Tampa, will certainly do their best to kind of keep him in the pocket. I think they'll be able to rely on Khalil Shakir. Give me Shakir over 49.5 receiving yards. And then the other one, and this is not a guy I thought that his name would come out of my mouth at any point this year, but that was before the Jameis Winston experience returned to the National Football League. I'm going to ride with Darius Slayton over 40.5 receiving yards. Listen, there's a couple things that we do know about Jameis Winston. He's going to sling it. There's going to be some big plays on offense, and there's probably going to be some real ugly ones going back the other way. But he is fearless, and the NFL's last 30-30 quarterback in touchdowns and interceptions, I think, will be aggressively trying to, get that football down the field. You look at Slayton last week, ended up with, I believe, a season high 89 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson has been the guy that's sort of been the go-to guy for the most part this year. I really do think that with Jameis in there, who's a little bit more of a prototypical quarterback, we're going to see the ball spread around a little bit more. And I think some chances for some big plays. So at a number at just 40.5, give me Darius Slayton over 40.5 for the receiving yards. I think of the two, I prefer the Khalil Shakir, just because he is about as consistent as they come. And I still have got a lot of respect for that Buffalo offense. So if you guys are cool, I think I'll throw Shakir out for the prop parlay. Guys, of the two ones that you just dropped, which is the one that you feel best about putting in the exclusive?
Personally, for me, it's Addison. I love Addison, the long reception. I don't know if that steers Patty away from having, two props in the same game.
But were we not maybe thinking of building that the Vikings parlay?
Yeah, this is our other option. We can. So this is what I was just thinking as we were chatting here. We can do Caleb rushing, Addison long reception, Vikings money line as a same game parlay for the Vikings game.
Sure.
And then we can do our other two props. So McCaffrey, Marks, and then what was the one you liked better? Shakir House? Yeah, so we can do McCaffrey, Marks, Shakir as our prop parlay. And then that's going to give us 4 parlays. We haven't even got to the TD scores yet.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so we'll get that one in. And those are usually the prop parlay, usually in the exclusive. So check that out, folks. Shakir, Woody Marks, and CMC for the prop parlay, which brings us to the house callers, touchdown scorers. Man, I'm having a tough time figuring out where I want to go with this one.
Me too, Huss. I'm totally with you. I think it's going to be a game time decision for me.
It could be. Well, guess what? It's game time right now. Pat, you can start it off. What's cooking for you?
I'll go. I agree with you guys. There was a lot of options, but when I was going through some of the choices that I had, I was shocked the number was where it was. Jamar Chase minus 105 to score a touchdown. If we believe there's going to be a lot of points in this game, which if you just look at the total 48.5, there are going to be a lot of points. There are going to be a lot of touchdowns. And anytime there are a lot of touchdowns in a game, including the Bengals, Jamar Chase is going to be involved. And Chase loves playing against this Steelers team in the division. 3 straight games against the Steelers with a touchdown. And with 7 games in his career against Pittsburgh, he's got 6 touchdowns, almost a touchdown a game. This should be completely lower. It should be minus 125, minus 130. Jalen Warren is minus 147 to score. He's got the highest odds. So I like Chase minus 105. There's a lot of other great options, but after breaking it down and looking at the value we're getting here, I'm not going to get a little bit, I was a bit greedy last week going with Dalton Kincaid. He ends up going down in an injury, but let's keep it a little safe this week, minus 105, which I still think is a really good number.
All right, Jamar Chase. Yeah, just under even money. Jake, what about you?
Oh, Huss, I don't know. Listen, I love Jacobs, but that number is just not even bettable. Minus 208 right now. I did like a play from the Steelers game, but I think I'll probably not do that with Patty being on Chase, even though I think there's going to be a zillion touchdowns in that game. You know what? Let's go to the Sunday nighter. That was the other way I was leaning. Yeah, I hate doing the chalk, guys. You know I like to take shots. I had JMO last week plus 161 to cash. But I'm gonna roll with the chalk and Jahmyr Gibbs on the Sunday nighter. I think that would be a great opportunity to have ourselves a Sunday night TD parlay, finishing with a Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown, who himself is a touchdown machine.
You know what? I like this one. We're going with some big time ballers in this one today. I'm going to go with the stud in a big time get right game for a team that has just had an absolutely horrible month, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have lost 4 games in a row. I'm going to roll with Bijan Robinson. Now, you might be saying, well, what has he been doing lately? Well, not a lot. I mean, his last 4 games, 14 carries for 40 yards against the Niners, 9 carries for 25 yards in that loss to the Dolphins, 12 for 46 against the Patriots, and 17 for 84 against the Colts. And he has not scored in the last 4 games, coincidentally, all losses for the Atlanta Falcons. You go back to the previous game and that big win they had against Buffalo, it was 19 carries for 170 yards and a touchdown. I know they played in Europe last week, crazy scheduling that they're back right at it. But to me, sorry, Carolina Mike, I think the Panthers are exactly what the doctor ordered for the Falcons today. Even though, and let's not forget, the Panthers beat the Falcons 30-0 earlier this year, which sort of was, after that great start. Bottom line is, I think this is a get-right game for the Atlanta Falcons. And I think this is a get-right game for Bijan Robinson to get back in. I think his number's in about minus 123. So let's throw that in. And I'll tell you what, if we want to go back to basics, Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, all 3 of those guys were probably picked in the first 6 picks in your fantasy draft. So let's make some fantasy owners happy and some cool bettors happy as well.
I will say this, Huss. I love that. Like I'm always a big fan of like when teams are on losing skids or they have a bad game and they, for whatever reason, get away from one of their big dogs or what was working before. They're going to be slamming that Bijan button all game long. With that being said, I am going to hedge our parlay, and I will be taking a Tyler Algier anytime touchdown just in case, because that guy is an absolute touchdown vulture. With that being said, though, we could see both guys score a touchdown, but just in case it's a nightmare scenario where they're down in the red zone, Bijan's on the freaking sidelines, and you got Algier just punching it in for a 2 or 3 touchdown score. So I'm going to also bet individually Tyler Algier minus 193. And if that bet loses because Bijan had a hat trick, so be it. I'm fine with it.
Love it. Love it. So our house callers is going to be Chase, Gibbs, and Bijan, going back to basics and just picking some of the best players in the game. Guys.
Huss, let me run through everything here. I got 5 parlays written down. So let me run through it all. Spreads parlay for this week. We're going to go Vikings minus 2.5. Bills minus 5.5, Lions plus 2.5 on Sunday night. So I have a little skin in the Sunday nighter. Hopefully we can make it there. We got our over parlay for this week. Bears, Vikings over 48.5, Packers, Giants over 42.5, and then Bengals, Steelers over 48.5. We got our parlay for the Vikings Bears game, which we have a lot of skin in right now. Just looking at it, we're going Caleb Williams rushing total over. Jordan Addison long reception over, and Vikings on the money line there. I think it's just an easier way to lay out that same gamer. Prop parlay, we're going McCaffrey. It was receiving yards, right, Patty?
Yeah.
For McCaffrey?
Yeah.
So McCaffrey receiving yards, Marks rush yards, Shakir receiving yards, and then touchdowns, as you mentioned, Huss, Bijan, Chase, and Gibbs. I'm fired up this week, boys. This is awesome.
Well, I'm fired up too. I'm also fired up to get the band together and have a hell of a weekend here in the Peg for the Grey Cup. Speaking of the Grey Cup, before we go, the latest line in this game, and I've been talking about this all week. I am stunned at how much of a favorite the Riders have been. And the big question on WST when we did the Coolbet lines is how high can this go? The money line, as well as the spread. As of yesterday, the height of it was plus 170 on the money line and plus 4. We have seen a bit of an adjustment on this one. It's plus 157 right now for Montreal. Saskatchewan is minus 192, and the spread is at 3.5. I've been pretty clear. I think this is a pick 'em. I know the Riders are a really public team. I know the Rider Nation can't wait to bet their team in the big game. I think that has been a big part of it. And the other part of it, I think that's really affected the line is the uncertainty about Davis Alexander playing. Listen, this guy is an absolute warrior. There's one game left in the season. Will he be at 100%? Probably not. Will he still be able to operate that offense and take advantage of that incredible receiving core and make the odd play with his legs? I think he will be able to. So, I mean, for me, the spread pick is probably the best way to go because I do think this is going to be a really close game. I would be surprised if it wasn't within a field goal. So getting the hook, even if you're not getting the 4 right now, I think is a great spot on Montreal. But as I put out yesterday, if you like Montreal, get in on the money line right now before it gets down. And of course, you can use that 30% profit boost to really crank it up. I think by the time I put it in and use it at plus 170, it ended up being basically the equivalent of a Montreal plus 220 bet in a game that I think is really a pick 'em. So I'm in on the Alouettes. Jake, I know we were talking last night. You've brought your melon head and everything else riding with the
Yeah,
the Rider
baby.
Nation right now. Patty, where are you at on this game?
Oh, I'm on Riders too, man. Brett Lawther. We got to support our guy. I do think that, though, like, of course, yes, when you look at a value point, you do bring up a lot of great points. I got the number at -3 before we've seen some movement. I don't see it getting any lower than that. I truly do believe that it's going to come down to a field goal in this game. There's a lot of other angles that I really like. I'm probably going to put a parlay up together. I kind of like Stevie Scott over 44.5 rushing yards, just based on we don't know what the health of Davis Alexander is. I think I'm obviously a big fan of AJ Ouellette, so I'll probably get on a touchdown there. And hey, you hand in your passport, hand in your Canadian citizenship for the Rouge. -125. It's probably going to be the last time we see a Rouge scored in a Grey Cup. You have to bet for a Rouge in the Grey Cup. It could be our last time we ever see it.
Maybe it's a Lawther walk-off Rouge for the for the Riders, which is exactly the reason why they're changing the rules, because they don't want it to happen. Listen, folks,
They don't want that to happen.
You really want to dive in to the Grey Cup. A ton of options right now over at Coolbet, far beyond what we'd normally have for a CFL game. One thing that it really interests me, most rushing yards, obviously AJ Ouellette's the chalk play at -286. Stevie Scott's 4-1, and Stevie Scott's plus 275 to score a touchdown. And maybe this is just the disgruntled Bomber fan that saw him run all over that Bomber defense in the East Semi. But this guy is a problem, and I think that he's going to have an impact in this game. And Pat, you mentioned, especially knowing that they maybe don't want to lean as much, particularly early on Davis Alexander's legs. I think we're going to see Stevie Scott. So I think those props are real good. And again, I'm on the Montreal side of things. Tyson Philpott at plus 150 to get into the end zone. Tyler Snead plus 175. How tough is that guy? Did you see that hit that he took in that East final? I saw a bunch of NFL accounts talk about that, going, that's 10 out of 10 times a flag in the National Football League. It wasn't, and he got right back up. And obviously, you've got some nice props for the quarterbacks. That Davis Alexander passing number is 263.5. Trevor Harris, I believe, is still at about 281 or so. But there's plenty of great ones. The other thing that I think we can talk about is the total, 49.5. Both games went under last week. Guys, it's going to be really nice here in Winnipeg for the game. Daytime high of 3. The wind doesn't seem like it's going to be a big factor. So I wouldn't be surprised if both of these teams score. If you think it's going to be a real shootout, you can get both teams to score 30, I believe it 8-1 in the game. But spread right now, 3.5, The latest on the money line is plus 157. That's coming down from a peak of plus 170 last night. And the Riders right now maintain their 3.5-point spread and minus 192. Guys, the only thing left to do is place these bets, get the combos up, and Pat, you get your ass on a plane and get here to the Peg tonight so we can really get into the Grey Cup festivities tomorrow.
I can't wait. I went to the Grey Cup a couple years ago in Saskatchewan. It was an unbelievable time. Rider Nation was great. So I know the fine folks of Winnipeg, Bomber Nation, is going to prove to me who has the best fan base, who can run the best Grey Cup. So excited to see what they can do. Excited to see you guys. Just excited to get the game. I'm pumped for you, Jake, though, to experience the Grey Cup. As you know, we're Toronto boys. We really don't know what CFL is all about. When I went to the Grey Cup a couple years ago, I really felt it's a celebration of the CFL. It's a celebration of Canadiana, to be quite honest. People, they don't care if your team's in last place or if your team is in the big game itself. People are booking their hotels and their tickets well advanced. Jake, you're in for such a treat. I can't wait to get there.
Yeah, we were leaving the bar late last night and saw a bunch of well-served BC Lions fans rocking into the spot. And, you're exactly right. I mean, it is a celebration of the CFL. And I think there's no better Grey Cup than the ones on the prairies. I mean, the Rider crew in Regina, they certainly know how to roll out the red tape. And obviously we were in Qatar for the last Regina Grey Cup. The one before, the entire week was like minus 25. This is a completely different situation right now. We got a daytime high of 11 expected today. There's an outdoor social all afternoon into the evening outside the convention center. And when downtown Winnipeg is rocking, then of course, Sunday, it all goes down at Princess Auto Stadium. Folks, get on over to Coolbet. If you want to ride with us on any of the parlays that we cooked up, they'll be in the combo cards or the exclusives, and make sure to get your bet in for the 112th Grey Cup before kickoff here in Winnipeg on Sunday, I should say. That is going to do it for us. We got a great week of football coming up, an amazing slate of NFL games, and the championship game for the Canadian Football League here in Winnipeg. Head on over to Coolbet, place your bets, folks, and as always, bet cool and responsibly. That's going to do it for us. Huge thanks to Connor Rabchak for producing the show today. For Jake Bolin and Pat Gregoire, I'm Andrew Paterson. Good luck with the wagers, folks. Here's to a great week of football and an awesome Grey Cup here in Winnipeg. We'll hopefully see you at the game or out on the town this week. Have a good one, and obviously make sure to tune in for more with the Coolbet lines daily on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a good one and a great weekend.